Listen, I need you to understand something before we start. When the Galactic Council approved Project Replication, we thought we were being clever. We thought we had figured out the humans. 6 cycles of observation, 12,000 hours of data analysis, and enough biological samples to fill 3 cargo bays. We were so incredibly monumentally wrong. My name is Crix, and I am, or rather was, the head xenobiologist at Research Station 47. Notice I said was. There is a reason for that. A very specific, very destructive reason currently locked behind 7 reinforced containment fields in what remains of Sub-Level 3. But I am getting ahead of myself. It started 3 months ago when Captain Venn brought in the human female. Not kidnapped, mind you. That would violate at least 47 intergalactic treaties. No, she volunteered. Walked right onto our vessel at the Saturn Orbital Station, signed the paperwork, and asked if we had coffee. We did not have coffee. We did not even know what coffee was. First warning sign. Obviously ignored. Her name was Rebecca Torres, and she was, by human standards, completely average. 5 feet 6 inches tall, brown hair, brown eyes, no visible mutations or extraordinary physical capabilities. She worked as something called an emergency room nurse back on Earth, which we learned meant she dealt with medical crises on a daily basis. The psychological profile suggested high stress tolerance and rapid decision-making skills. Perfect for our purposes, or so we believed. So, let me get this straight, Rebecca said during the initial briefing, leaning back in the examination chair with an expression our database labeled as amused skepticism. You want to make copies of me, like full biological clones, and you will pay me 200,000 credits plus room and board for 6 months? That is correct, I replied, my translator unit rendering my native clicking speech into flat, emotionless standard. The Galactic Council wishes to better understand human physiology. Your species is remarkably resilient, and we believe studying clone specimens will provide valuable medical insights without risking harm to actual humans. And these clones, they will not be like sentient or anything? Not going to wake up and ask for their own Netflix accounts? I did not understand the reference, but I assured her the clones would be maintained in suspended animation for study purposes only. No consciousness, no awareness. Pure biological specimens. Rebecca shrugged. Sure, why not? I have got student loans that are actively trying to murder me anyway. When do we start? We started the next day. The cloning process itself was standard procedure. We had successfully replicated over 300 species using the Vector 9 cloning matrix. Simple, reliable, predictable. You input the genetic material, the machine does its work, and approximately 72 hours later, you have a perfect biological duplicate in suspended animation. Rebecca spent those 72 hours reading human literature on her datapad, occasionally asking our staff questions about our homeworlds, and teaching our cafeteria synthesizers to produce something she called decent tacos. She was pleasant, friendly, and completely unconcerned about the entire process. On the morning of the 3rd day, I entered the cloning lab with a spring in my step. Whose 3 of my finest technicians were already there, monitoring the vital signs of the new specimen. Everything appeared normal. The clone was anatomically perfect, suspended in the standard biogel medium, all readings within expected parameters. Successful replication. Technician Morp announced, his antenna quivering with professional satisfaction. Genetic match is 99.97%, neural pathways inactive, respiratory and circulatory systems stable. Specimen is ready for analysis. Gisto. Sexemen is ready for analysis. Excellent, I said, making notes on my datapad. Begin the wake-up protocol. We will need baseline readings before transferring to long-term suspension. This is where things went, as the humans say, completely sideways. The wake-up protocol is gentle, designed to gradually activate basic biological functions without triggering consciousness. Heart rate increases slightly. Lungs begin shallow breathing. Cellular activity resumes normal patterns. We had done this thousands of times. But approximately 40 seconds into the protocol, the clone's eyes snapped open. Not the slow, unfocused drift of an unconscious specimen gaining basic neural function. No, these eyes opened with complete awareness, complete focus, and something our instruments later identified as concentrated fury. Technician Morp said eloquently. That should not be happening. The clone sat up in the gel tank, just sat straight up, biogel cascading off her shoulders, and looked directly at me. The expression on her face was not one our database recognized. Later analysis would suggest it was a combination of extreme annoyance and impending violence. Where? The clone said, her voice rough from disuse but absolutely clear. Am I? And why does everything smell like antiseptic and regret? I stared. My 3 technicians stared. The monitoring equipment continued its cheerful beeping, completely unconcerned that the supposedly unconscious clone specimen was now climbing out of the tank. You should not be conscious, I managed. The neural inhibitors should have prevented any cognitive function. Yeah, well, I am conscious, the clone said, pulling monitoring cables off her body with disturbing efficiency. And I am also naked, which is making this already weird situation significantly weirder. Someone want to explain what is going on? And maybe get me a towel? 2 towels? This gel stuff is everywhere. Technician Leary, bless her quick thinking, grabbed a thermal blanket and approached cautiously. You are a clone, a biological duplicate of a human female named Rebecca Torres. You were not supposed to wake up. The clone wrapped the blanket around herself, looked down at her hands, then back at us. I am a clone. Yes. A copy. Correct. And I was not supposed to know about it. The original protocol did not account for consciousness, I admitted. The original protocol did not account for consciousness, I admitted. The clone was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she started laughing. Not polite laughter, not nervous laughter. The kind of deep, slightly unhinged laughter that makes everyone nearby very uncomfortable. Oh, this is perfect, she finally said, wiping her eyes. This is absolutely perfect. You cloned a human, and you did not think the clone might wake up. Did you even read the reports about human neural plasticity? Our brains literally rewire themselves constantly. You cannot just turn off human consciousness with some standard inhibitor protocol. The Vexor 9 matrix has a 98.6% success rate, I protested. Cool. I am the 1.4%. What is my name? You do not have a name. You are specimen. 4701B. Yeah, no, hard pass on that. I am going with Bex, short for Rebecca, but different enough that we can tell each other apart when she inevitably finds out about this situation. Bex looked around the lab, taking in the equipment, the containment fields, the various monitoring stations. So what happens now? You going to put me back to sleep? Try again with stronger inhibitors? I considered this. The ethical implications were already staggering. We had created a conscious being apparently by accident. Terminating her would violate multiple laws. Keeping her awake was not part of the approved research protocol. I need to contact the council, I said. You do that. Meanwhile, I am going to need food, real food, not nutrition paste, and clothes, definitely clothes, and someone needs to explain to me exactly what you were planning to do with my body while I was unconscious, because I have got some opinions forming about that. Technician Morp made a small whimpering sound. Over the next 6 hours, the situation evolved from unexpected complication to diplomatic incident to please stop teaching our staff inappropriate human phrases crisis. Bex, it turned out, had all of Rebecca's memories up to the point of the genetic sampling. She knew she was a clone. She knew she was not the original Rebecca, and she was remarkably disturbingly okay with it. Look, she explained to me over what she insisted on calling lunch. Despite it being our evening cycle, I exist now. I did not ask to exist. But here I am. To consciousness is consciousness. I am not going back in the tank. I am not going to sleep for your convenience. And I am definitely not letting you cut me up for science.
So, we need to figure out an alternative arrangement.
The council is still debating the legal status of sentient clones, I said carefully. Then let them debate. Meanwhile, I am a person, a weird, accidentally created person, but a person. I have rights, or I will have rights, once I explain the situation to enough people who care about not looking like massive jerks on the galactic stage. She had a point. Several points, actually. The public relations nightmare alone would set xenobiology research back decades. That is when Rebecca, the original Rebecca, walked into the cafeteria. The 2 women stared at each other. Digger Gax eating synthesized pasta. Rebecca holding a coffee substitute that she had been complaining about for 2 days. Identical faces, identical bodies, completely different expressions. So, Rebecca finally said, "You are me." "Clone, technically," Bex replied. "But yeah, surprise? They told me there was a complication. They did not mention the complication would be having a conversation with itself. Herself. Two selves, specifically. Want to sit down? This is surreal, and I feel like we should be surreal together. And here is the thing about humans that our database completely failed to capture, where any rational species would react to meeting their clone with confusion, anger, or existential dread. Rebecca Torres just sat down across from her duplicate and said, "Is that pasta any good? Because I have been living on protein bars and disappointment for 3 days." Within 20 minutes they were comparing memories, finishing each other's sentences, and planning what they cheerfully called Operation Maximum Chaos. Within an hour they were arguing about whether Bex should get her hair cut differently for identification purposes. Within 2 hours they had somehow convinced 3 of our technicians to help them improve the recreational facilities on the station. I realized watching them that we had made a fundamental miscalculation. We had thought humans were resilient because of their biology, strong bones, efficient healing, adaptable immune systems. But the real resilience was not physical. It was the complete, unshakable refusal to be anything other than themselves, no matter what circumstances they found themselves in. "Chris," Rebecca called out, waving me over. "Deeks and I have been talking. We have got a proposal for you." I approached cautiously. "I am listening." "You wanted to study human resilience and adaptability, right? Well, you have got 2 of me now. 2 humans with identical genetics but developing as separate individuals. That is basically the greatest control experiment in human psychology ever. We will let you run your tests. But Bex is not going back in the tank. She is a full participant with all the rights and compensation that entails. The council will never approve 2 separate contracts," I protested. "Then make it 1 contract with better terms. You wanted data? We will give you data, more than you can process. But we do it on our terms, as conscious participants, or we start making calls to every news service in the sector about the research station that accidentally created sentient life and tried to put it back in storage." Or Bex grinned. "She makes an excellent point. Also, I want back pay for the 6 hours I have been awake. Emotional distress and all that." I looked at the 2 humans sitting side by side, both wearing identical expressions of determined mischief. I thought about the paperwork this would generate. I thought about explaining this to the council. I thought about the fact that we had 17 more cloning sessions scheduled. "I need to make some calls," I said weakly. "You do that," they said in unison, then looked at each other and laughed. That was 3 weeks ago. The council, after extensive debate and at least 4 diplomatic incidents, approved the revised research protocol. Rebecca and Bex both signed new contracts with significantly better terms. They each got their own quarters, full access to station facilities, and what Rebecca called hazard pay for dealing with confused alien bureaucracy. The research has been extraordinary. Watching 2 genetically identical humans develop different personalities, preferences, and quirks in real time has provided insights we never imagined possible. But here is the problem. The problem that has me recording this log and seriously considering early retirement. Yesterday, the council approved Phase 2 of Project Replication, all 3 more clones, they said. Expand the research, they said. Gather comprehensive data on human social dynamics, all Sister said. So this morning we started the second cloning session, and 37 minutes ago Clone 2 woke up, looked at me and said, "All right, what kind of absolute nonsense am I walking into this time?" I'm beginning to suspect that human consciousness is not just resilient. It might be contagious, or impossible to suppress, or actively malicious toward research protocols. Rebecca and Bex are in the observation room right now, watching Clone 2, who has decided her name is Echo, argue with Technician Morp about proper laboratory safety procedures. "You know," Rebecca said thoughtfully, "at some point there are going to be enough of us to form a sports team. Dibs on team captain," Bex added. "That is not how it works," Echo's voice came through the speakers. "Team captains are elected or earned through demonstrated skill." They are already arguing. 3 versions of the same person, and they are already disagreeing with each other about hypothetical team structures. I have made a terrible mistake, multiple terrible mistakes actually, and we still have 2 more cloning sessions scheduled for next week. The lab might not survive this, I am almost certain I will not. But the data, I must admit, is going to be spectacular. So here is what nobody tells you about cloning humans. The manuals do not cover it. The training seminars skip right over it. And the Galactic Council apparently decided this information was not worth mentioning. Every single one of them wakes up. Clone 4, who decided to call herself River because, and I quote, "It sounds peaceful and I am going to need that energy," opened her eyes approximately 6 hours after Echo. Clone 5, who immediately declared her name was Cat with 1 T because it is efficient and I like cats, woke up 40 minutes after that. We now have 5 conscious humans on Research Station 47, 5 versions of Rebecca Torres, each one developing their own distinct personality, and all of them have apparently formed some kind of collective agreement to make my life as complicated as possible. Okay. House meeting, Rebecca, the original, announced at 0600 hour station time. She had somehow acquired a coffee maker. Do not ask me how. I do not know. Our cargo manifests show no coffee makers. She just has one now, and it produces a beverage that all 5 of them treat like liquid consciousness itself. They were gathered in what used to be Storage Bay 7 but had been converted into what Bex called the Clone Lounge. There were 5 chairs arranged in a circle, a table covered in datapads and a wall-mounted display showing what I recognized as human entertainment media. I watched from the observation deck, because at this point direct supervision seemed less effective than simple monitoring and damage control. First order of business, Rebecca continued, pouring herself a cup of the dark liquid. We need to establish some ground rules. We are all technically the same person, genetically speaking, but we are developing as individuals. That means we need boundaries, personal space, and a system for handling disagreements. I call not being the responsible one, Kat said immediately. Too late. You are Clone 5. Responsibility is implied, Echo replied. That is not how anything works, River protested. Can we establish a bathroom schedule? Bex asked. Because 5 people with identical circadian rhythms sharing 2 bathrooms is going to be a logistical nightmare. Already made a spreadsheet, Rebecca said, tapping her datapad. Color-coded by urgency levels. They spent the next 30 minutes discussing bathroom protocols, kitchen access, personal items, and something called designated crying hours, which apparently all humans need but refuse to explain to non-humans. They are organizing. Technician Morp whispered beside me, his antenna drooping with concern. I can see that. Should we be worried? We should have been worried 3 weeks ago. Now we are just documenting the aftermath. That afternoon, the 5 of them submitted a formal request to the council. They wanted full citizenship status, individual identity documentation, and permission to form what they called a human collective with voting rights. The council, predictably, denied the request. Clones did not have legal standing as separate individuals under current galactic law. They were, technically, all the same person. The humans found this hilarious and deeply offensive in equal measure. All right, Plan B, Rebecca announced that evening. We have a Plan B? River asked. We always have a Plan B. We are an emergency room nurse. Planning for worst-case scenarios is literally our job. Was our job? Kat corrected. Now our job is apparently being science experiments who gained consciousness. Temporary setback. Anyway, Plan B. We prove we are separate individuals by demonstrating different skills, preferences, and personality traits. Make it impossible for them to legally classify us as one person. I am good at that, Echo said.
I have been practicing being argumentative.
You have been awake for 3 days, Bex pointed out, and I have made excellent progress. Over the next week, the 5 humans proceeded to systematically prove they were distinct individuals. Rebecca maintained her role as the organized responsible one, coordinating schedules and managing conflicts. Burgess developed an interest in xenobiology, spending hours in the lab, asking questions that made my staff question their career choices. Echo took up engineering, somehow talking her way into the maintenance department and improving our life support efficiency by 12%. River discovered a talent for diplomacy, mediating disputes between different alien species on the station with remarkable success. Kat learned to pilot shuttles and spent her free time practicing evasive maneuvers that violated at least 6 safety regulations. They are terrifying. Captain Venn told me during our weekly briefing, individually humans are manageable, but 5 of them working together, they fixed our waste reclamation system, reorganized our cargo protocols, and taught half the crew something called poker. Do you know how much money my crew has lost to poker? I am afraid to ask. 47,000 credits. To 5 humans who have existed for less than a month. They are card counting. All of them. Simultaneously. The real problem started on day 23. I was in my office, reviewing the psychological assessment reports. All 5 humans were well adjusted, developing normally, showing no signs of distress despite their unusual circumstances, when the station alarm went off. Not the standard alarm, LOM, the emergency alarm, HOLE, the one that means catastrophic system failure or imminent death. I ran to the command center. Captain Venn was already there, along with half the senior staff, all staring at the displays with expressions of horror. What happened? I demanded. Containment breach in sub-level 3, Venn said, his voice tight. The experimental biolab. Something got out. My blood froze. Sub-level 3 housed our most dangerous research projects, specimens that were too volatile, too unpredictable, too lethal for standard containment. We had a Threxian acid spitter down there, a Morphean phase shifter, and most concerning, a Vex parasite that could take over neural systems of any species it encountered. Seal the level, I ordered. Emergency lockdown, do not let anything reach the main station. Already done. But we have a problem. What problem? Venn pulled up the security feed. My organs sank. All 5 humans were in sub-level 3. They had apparently been taking an unauthorized tour, because of course they were, and now they were trapped with whatever had escaped containment. Can we reach them? I asked. Communication? Trying. The containment breach damaged the relay systems. I watched the security feed. The 5 humans were pressed against a wall talking rapidly to each other. Then Rebecca pulled out a fire extinguisher. Bex grabbed what looked like a maintenance tool. Echo, River, and Kat armed themselves with various pieces of equipment. What are they doing? Technician Leary whispered. I said slowly. They are going to fight whatever got out. That is insane. They are unarmed civilians. They are humans. There is a difference. The creature that rounded the corner was a Morphean phase shifter, 3 meters tall, 6 limbs, ability to shift partially out of normal space-time to avoid physical attacks. We had been studying it for its potential applications in stealth technology. It was also extremely aggressive, and had already killed 2 handlers during initial containment. The humans should have run. Any rational being would have run. Instead, Rebecca stepped forward and sprayed it with the fire extinguisher. The Morphean recoiled, its phase shifting disrupted by the sudden temperature change. Before it could recover, Echo hit it with the maintenance tool, a heavy wrench, right in what our anatomical charts suggested was a sensory cluster. The creature shrieked and lashed out with one limb. River dodged, barely, and Kat threw something at its face. A flashlight, set to strobe. The Morphean's vision-based phase-shifting ability relies on visual targeting. The strobing light confused its neural patterns. Bex, meanwhile, had found an emergency plasma cutter and was methodically cutting through the damaged containment field generator, trying to restore power. They are coordinating, Captain Venn said, his voice filled with awe. 5 individuals who have known each other for less than a month, and they are fighting like a trained military unit. Emergency room nurse, I murmured. Rebecca said she was an emergency room nurse. High-stress situations, rapid decision-making, coordinating with teams under pressure. But the clones should not have those skills. They were only conscious for days or weeks. The memories transfer, the instincts transfer, and apparently so does the ability to remain absolutely calm while fighting a phase-shifting alien predator with improvised weapons. The fight lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the most efficient, coordinated combat I have ever witnessed. The humans used every environmental advantage, every piece of equipment, every moment of distraction. When the Morphean tried to phase through a wall, Echo predicted the exit point and was waiting with a high-voltage power cable. When it attempted to split its attention between multiple targets, they used that against it, attacking from 5 directions simultaneously. Tre-2 got the containment field back online. River herded the creature toward the restored field. Rebecca, still spraying the fire extinguisher, backed it into the containment zone. Kat hit the activation switch. The Morphean was trapped again, injured, furious, but contained. The 5 humans stood there, breathing hard, covered in various substances I did not want to identify, and then Kat said, "Well, that was different." "Is everyone okay?" Rebecca asked, already checking the others for injuries. "Bruised but functional," Echo replied. "I think I sprained something," River admitted. "We have medical," Beck said. Also, we should probably tell someone about the giant angry alien we just recontained. Yeah, good call. I got communications working 3 minutes later. Are you all right? I asked, my voice probably revealing more concern than was professional. Define all right, Rebecca responded. We are alive. The monster is back in its cage and I think I need about 6 showers and a very strong drink. How did you were only conscious for none of you have combat training? We are an emergency room nurse, all 5 of them said in perfect unison, then looked at each other and laughed. Jinx, you owe me a soda. All of us owe all of us a soda. This is getting confusing. Emergency room nurses deal with crises, Rebecca explained. You do not have time to panic. You assess the situation, use what you have, coordinate with your team, and solve the problem. The problem just usually involves heart attacks and car accidents instead of alien monsters. Although this is definitely going in the top 10 weird shifts, Kat added. The medical team cleared them within 2 hours. Minor injuries, nothing serious. They were, as always, remarkably resilient. The council meeting that followed was significantly less pleasant. Hohen authorized access to restricted areas, engaging with dangerous specimens, using station equipment without proper training. Holy's council member Thrix listed, his voice dripping with disapproval. Holy's humans are becoming a liability. Hohen Saverhetsu. Sarah Fawn, Holy's humans are becoming a liability. These humans saved the station, Captain Venn countered. That morphine could have killed dozens before we contained it again. They should not have been there in the first place. And the creature should not have escaped. But it did, and the humans dealt with it more effectively than our trained security team could have. That is not the point. Then what is the point? I asked, surprising myself with my own boldness. We created 5 conscious beings. We did not mean to, but we did. They did not ask to exist. They did not ask to be clones or experiments or anything else. But they are here. They are alive. And they are proving every single day that they are individuals. Different individuals. And when faced with a crisis that should have killed them, they handled it with more competence than most of our trained personnel. The council was silent. I propose, I continued, that we stop treating them as specimens and start treating them as what they are. People. I have remarkable people who happen to share genetics but are developing their own identities, skills, and lives. Grant them citizenship. Give them rights. Let them choose their own paths. And if we do not, Thrix asked, then I will resign and I will make sure every news service in the sector knows exactly what happened here. How we accidentally created sentient life, and then tried to deny it personhood. How 5 humans fought a phase-shifting predator with improvised weapons because we failed at basic containment protocols. The public relations alone will destroy our funding for decades. Another long silence. Council member Yara, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. The xenobiologist makes a compelling argument. And the incident report supports his assessment. The humans demonstrated remarkable courage, adaptability, and skill. These are not traits of simple clones. These are traits of individuals. The vote took 3 hours, but in the end, it passed. 5-3 with 1 abstention. The humans were granted citizenship, individual identity documentation, full rights under Galactic law. When I told them they were in the clone lounge, watching some human entertainment program about people competing to cook food. So we are legal now? Bex asked. Completely legal. Separate individuals with full citizenship rights. Can we vote? Kat wanted to know. Yes. Get jobs? River asked. Yes. Leave the station if we want to, Echo added. Yes, you are free to make your own choices. They looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that humans somehow manage without words. Cool, Rebecca finally said. We are staying. I blinked. You are what? Staying on the station. We want to continue the research. Not as specimens, as partners. You wanted to study human adaptability? Let us show you. We will work with your teams, teach you about human psychology and physiology, help improve your understanding of our species, but we do it as colleagues, not subjects. And we want better quarters, Kat added. These ones are tiny. And actual coffee, Beck said. Not the synthetic stuff. Real coffee beans. I will submit a supply request. And we want Crix to supervise the project, River added. He is the only one who has actually treated us like people from the start. I tried to keep you unconscious in a tank, I pointed out. Yeah, but you felt bad about it, Echo said. And you listened when we explained why that was a terrible idea. Character development. We appreciate that in a person. So that is how I ended up as the supervisor of the first human collective in galactic history. 5 humans, 1 genetics, 5 completely different people. Rebecca became our liaison with other species, using her diplomatic skills to improve interspecies relations. Bex joined the xenobiology department, providing insights into human biology that we never would have discovered on our own. Echo revolutionized our engineering protocols. River established a conflict resolution program that reduced station incidents by 40%. Kat trained our pilots and somehow convinced the council to fund a human-style shuttle racing league. 3 months later, they invited me to dinner, real dinner, with food they had cooked themselves using ingredients shipped from Earth. So Chris, Rebecca said, pouring something she called wine into 5 glasses and 1 specially designed container for my biology. We have been thinking. Should I be concerned? All 5 of them grinned. Probably. But hear us out. We want to help you clone more humans. Properly this time. With full consent from volunteers, proper consciousness protocols and legal frameworks for the clones. Why would you want that? Because you were right, Beck said. Humans are resilient. We adapt. We survive. And the galaxy needs to understand us better if we are going to make this whole interspecies cooperation thing work. Plus, Kat added, we are really good at being human, and there should be more of us. Different versions, different perspectives, but all bringing something valuable. Also, Echo said with a smirk, imagine how entertaining it will be watching other species try to deal with a dozen conscious human clones all arguing about the best way to organize a filing system. I looked at these 5 remarkable beings, each one unique despite their identical genetics. They were brilliant, chaotic, compassionate, and absolutely terrifying in their competence. I will submit the proposal to the council, I said. Excellent, River said, raising her glass. To Project Replication, version 2.0 now with 100% more consciousness and significantly fewer containment breaches. To not being specimens anymore, Rebecca added. To coffee, Beck said. To causing problems on purpose, Kat laughed. To being human, Echo finished. They clinked their glasses together and I touched my container to theirs. The council approved the new project 6 weeks later, while we now have proper protocols, legal frameworks, and a waiting list of human volunteers, 300 names long. And yes, every single clone wakes up, conscious. Every single one develops their own personality. Every single one turns out to be extraordinary in their own way. The lab survived, barely. My sanity survived, mostly. And humanity proved once again that they are the most resilient, adaptable, and magnificently chaotic species in the galaxy. I would not have it any other way.